We knew the title, The Virgin Girl Trusted the Doctor, would spark debate.
Yeah.
But it's crucial to the story, especially when she discovers the pregnancy.
The girl who believed in medicine. Amara Hassan had always been the kind of girl who followed the rules. At 23 years old, she lived a carefully structured life that balanced her university studies in literature with her family's traditional values. Her parents had raised her in a home where faith, education, and purity were the pillars of existence. Amara wore her modesty like armor, protecting herself from a world that often seemed too fast and too careless. Her days followed a predictable rhythm. Morning prayers, university lectures, afternoons spent in the library, and evenings helping her mother prepare dinner. She had never kissed a boy, never held hands in secret, never broken the sacred promise she had made to herself and her family. Some of her friends teased her gently about her old-fashioned ways, but Amara never wavered. She knew who she was and what she believed. The doctor everyone trusted. Dr. Vikram Malhotra had been the Hassan family's physician for as long as Amara could remember. He had treated her childhood fevers, her father's diabetes, her mother's migraines. His clinic stood on the corner of their neighborhood, a modest two-story building with faded yellow walls and a waiting room that always smelled of antiseptic and jasmine incense. Dr. Malhotra was in his late 50s, with graying hair and gentle eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses. He had delivered half the babies in the neighborhood and had never once been involved in scandal or controversy. When people spoke of him, they used words like dedicated and trustworthy. He remembered birthdays, asked about family members by name, and never rushed through appointments. For Amara, he was more than a doctor. He was an extension of her family, someone whose medical advice was as unquestionable as her father's wisdom or her mother's prayers. The visit that changed everything. The headaches had started 3 months earlier. Dull at first, then gradually more persistent. Amara ignored them initially, blaming stress from her final semester exams. But when she began feeling dizzy during lectures and her vision occasionally blurred, her mother insisted she see Dr. Malhotra. On that Tuesday afternoon in late autumn, Amara walked into the familiar clinic wearing her usual modest dress and headscarf. The waiting room was more crowded than usual. Patients filled every chair, and a harried-looking receptionist juggled phone calls while trying to manage the growing line. When Amara finally entered the examination room, she noticed Dr. Malhotra looked tired. Dark circles shadowed his eyes, and he moved with less of his usual calm energy. He listened to her symptoms, nodding thoughtfully as she described the headaches and dizziness. "Your blood pressure is slightly elevated for your age," he said, checking his notes. "I want to run some tests. Hormone levels, vitamin deficiencies, the usual panel. And I'll give you an injection today to help stabilize things while we wait for results." Amara trusted him completely. She did not question, did not ask for details, did not request a second opinion. Why would she? This was Dr. Malhotra. The chaos behind closed doors. What Amara could not see was the chaos unfolding behind the clinic's professional facade. Dr. Malhotra had recently expanded his practice to include fertility treatments, a lucrative addition that promised to secure his retirement. That same afternoon, another patient was scheduled for an expensive, highly confidential procedure, artificial insemination using donor material from a wealthy client who demanded absolute secrecy. The clinic had hired 2 new nurses to handle the increased workload. One of them, Priya, was on her 3rd consecutive shift. Exhausted and overwhelmed, she prepared the treatment rooms while juggling multiple patient files. In her fatigue, she placed the wrong file on the wrong examination table. When Dr. Malhotra called for the prepared materials for Amara's vitamin injection, Priya handed him the syringe meant for the other patient. The doctor, distracted by the unusually hectic day and trusting his staff's competence, did not double-check the label. The procedure took less than 5 minutes. Dr. Malhotra inserted the needle with practiced efficiency, gave Amara instructions to rest and stay hydrated, and sent her home with a prescription for mild pain relievers. He told her to return in 2 weeks for her blood test results. Amara left the clinic feeling slightly sore but otherwise fine. She had no reason to suspect that anything was wrong. The doctor she trusted with her life had just made a mistake that would shatter her entire world. The first strange signs. 3 weeks passed before Amara noticed anything unusual. At first, it was just tiredness that seemed deeper than normal exam stress. She found herself falling asleep during afternoon study sessions, something that had never happened before. Her mother joked that she was working too hard. Then came the nausea. It started as a queasy feeling in the mornings, subtle enough to dismiss as hunger or anxiety. But it grew stronger, more persistent. Certain smells that had never bothered her before, like her mother's cooking spices or the perfume counter at the shopping mall, suddenly made her stomach turn. Her roommate at university, a nursing student named Fatima, watched with growing concern as Amara rushed to the bathroom for the third morning in a row. When Amara emerged, pale and shaking, Fatima spoke the words that would change everything. "Amara, I know this sounds crazy, but these symptoms are classic. You need to take a test." Amara laughed, genuinely amused by the absurdity. "A pregnancy test? Fatima, you know me. That's impossible. I have never even been alone with a man." But Fatima's serious expression did not waver. "Just to rule it out. For your peace of mind. There could be other medical reasons for these symptoms, but we need to know for sure." That evening, Amara stood in a pharmacy 3 blocks from her apartment, her hands trembling as she purchased the test. She told herself she was being ridiculous, that she was wasting money on something that would obviously be negative. Yet some deep instinct told her that her life was about to change in ways she could never have imagined. The impossible was about to become terrifyingly real, the moment everything shattered. Amara sat on the cold bathroom floor of her apartment, staring at the plastic test in her trembling hands. 2 pink lines. Clear, unmistakable, impossible. She blinked hard, hoping her vision was playing tricks, that stress had somehow distorted reality. But the lines remained, bold and accusatory against the white background. Her breath came in short, panicked gasps. The bathroom walls seemed to close in around her. This could not be happening. She was a virgin. She had never been intimate with anyone. The test had to be wrong. It had to be defective. She grabbed the box with shaking fingers and read the accuracy label. 99% accurate. Fatima knocked softly on the door. "Amara, are you okay in there?" Amara could not form words. A sound escaped her throat, something between a sob and a scream. Fatima pushed open the door and found her friend curled against the bathtub, the positive test clutched in her fist. "Oh my God," Fatima whispered, kneeling beside her. "Amara, how is this possible? You told me you never." "I did not," Amara choked out. "I swear on everything I believe, I have never been with anyone. This cannot be real. This cannot be happening to me." Fatima held her as she cried, but even her friend's comfort could not touch the terror spreading through Amara's chest. Her family would never believe her. Society would destroy her. Her entire life, built on faith and purity, was crumbling around her. The desperate returned to the clinic. The next morning, Amara walked into Dr. Malhotra's clinic like a ghost. She had not slept. Her eyes were swollen from crying, her headscarf hastily wrapped, her hands still shaking. She did not wait for the receptionist to announce her. She pushed past the waiting patients and burst into Dr. Malhotra's office. "The test is wrong," she said, her voice raw. "You need to tell me the test is wrong." Dr. Malhotra looked up from his desk, startled. "Amara, what test? What are you talking about?" She threw the positive pregnancy test onto his desk. "This test. It says I am pregnant. But that is impossible because I am a virgin. So clearly something is very wrong with me, and you need to fix it." The doctor's face went pale. He picked up the test, studied it, then looked at her medical file. His hands began to shake. "When did you take this?" "Last night." "But it is wrong." "It has to be wrong because I have never," she could not finish the sentence. The shame was too overwhelming. Dr. Malhotra stood abruptly, knocking his chair backward. He rifled through his files with increasing panic, pulling out folders, checking dates, cross-referencing patient records. Amara watched as the color drained entirely from his face. He looked like a man watching his entire world collapse. "Oh God," he whispered. "Oh God, no. Please, no." "What?" Amara demanded, her fear turning to anger. "What is wrong? Tell me what is happening to me." The horrifying truth revealed. Dr. Malhotra sank into his chair, his head in his hands. When he looked up, there were tears in his eyes. There was a mistake. A terrible, unforgivable mistake. That day you came in for your headache treatment, the clinic was very busy. We had another patient scheduled for a fertility procedure. The files got mixed up. You were given the wrong treatment. Amara stared at him, not comprehending. "What does that mean? What treatment did you give me?" "You were given an artificial insemination procedure meant for another patient. Donor genetic material. It was supposed to be a simple vitamin injection for you, but there was a mix-up in the preparation room. My nurse was exhausted, and I did not double-check. This is my fault. This is entirely my fault." The room spun. Amara gripped the edge of his desk to keep from falling. "You are telling me that you made me pregnant? That you put someone else's baby inside me without my knowledge or consent? I am so sorry. This should never have happened. My insurance will cover everything. I will pay for a termination procedure, and we can keep this completely confidential. No one needs to know." Amara's shock turned to rage. "Termination? You think I can just erase a life because of your mistake? You think money fixes what you have done to me? You have destroyed everything I am, everything I believe in, and you want to pay me to stay quiet? Amara, please understand the position I am in. If this becomes public..." "I do not care about your position," she shouted. "Whose genetic material did you use? Who is the father of this baby?" Dr. Malhotra hesitated, clearly torn between confidentiality and the magnitude of his error. Finally, he opened a locked drawer and pulled out a confidential file. "His name is Ryan Shaw. He is the CEO of NextGen Technologies. He paid for absolute secrecy. He wanted an heir but no traditional relationship. This was supposed to be handled with the utmost discretion." Amara memorized the name. Ryan Shaw. The man who was now, impossibly, the father of her unborn child. Confronting the billionaire. NextGen Technologies occupied the top 15 floors of the tallest building in the city. Amara stood in the marble lobby, feeling small and out of place among the polished executives and expensive art. She had rehearsed what she would say 100 times, but now that she was here, the words felt inadequate. The receptionist looked at her with barely concealed disdain. "Do you have an appointment with Mr. Shaw?" "No, but I need to see him." "It is urgent. Mr. Shaw does not take unscheduled meetings. If you would like to submit a request through the proper channels. Tell him it is about his confidential medical procedure at Dr. Malhotra's clinic," Amara interrupted. "Tell him there was a complication. He will want to see me." The receptionist's professional mask slipped for a moment. She made a phone call, spoke in hushed tones, then looked at Amara with new wariness. "Take the private elevator to the 45th floor. Someone will meet you there." The elevator ride felt endless. Amara caught her reflection in the polished doors. She looked terrified and small, nothing like the confident woman she had imagined herself to be when confronting the man responsible for her situation. The elevator opened directly into a massive office with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the entire city. And there, standing behind a desk that probably cost more than her family's home, was Ryan Shaw. He was younger than she expected, perhaps in his mid-30s, with sharp features and cold, calculating eyes. He wore a custom suit that fit him perfectly, and everything about him radiated power and control. When he looked at Amara, his expression was one of irritation mixed with curiosity. "You have exactly 5 minutes to explain why you are here," he said without preamble. "And if this is some kind of extortion attempt, I will have you arrested before you leave this building." Amara walked forward, placed the medical reports and pregnancy test on his pristine desk, and met his gaze without flinching. "My name is Amara Hassan. 3 weeks ago, I went to Dr. Malhotra's clinic for a routine appointment. Due to a medical error, I was given a fertility treatment meant for another patient. Your genetic material was used. I am now pregnant with your child, despite the fact that I am a virgin and never consented to any such procedure." For a long moment, Ryan simply stared at her. Then he laughed, a harsh sound without humor. "That is the most creative extortion scheme I have heard in years. Do you really expect me to believe that story?" "I expect you to read the medical reports," Amara said quietly. "I expect you to investigate Dr. Malhotra's clinic and verify what I am telling you. And I expect you to understand that I do not want your money. I want justice for what was done to me." Ryan picked up the reports, his expression skeptical. But as he read, Amara watched his face change. The dismissive arrogance faded, replaced by shock, then barely contained fury. He grabbed his phone and made a call, speaking in clipped, dangerous tones about investigations and lawyers. When he hung up, he looked at Amara with new eyes. Not warmth, but a grudging recognition that she might be telling the truth. "If what you are saying is real, then we have a very serious problem. And we need to figure out how to solve it." Amara touched her still flat stomach, feeling the impossible weight of the life growing inside her. "I did not come here for solutions, Mr. Shaw. I came here because you deserve to know the truth. What happens next, we will figure out together. The investigation begins." Ryan Shaw was a man who built his empire on information and control. Within 24 hours of Amara's revelation, he had assembled a team of investigators, lawyers, and medical experts. They descended on Dr. Malhotra's clinic like a storm, demanding records, interviewing staff, and reconstructing every moment of that fateful afternoon. Amara received a call from Ryan's assistant, a crisp professional woman named Jennifer, who informed her that all medical expenses would be covered and that she should prepare to give detailed statements to the legal team. The tone was businesslike, cold, as if Amara were simply another problem to be managed rather than a person whose entire life had been turned upside down. 3 days later, Ryan's investigators confirmed everything. They found the exhausted nurse who had mixed up the files. They uncovered the procedural failures and the lack of proper verification protocols. They documented every instance of negligence that had led to the catastrophic mistake. Dr. Malhotra's carefully built reputation crumbled in a matter of hours. Ryan called Amara himself to deliver the news. His voice was tight with controlled anger. "The investigation confirms your account. Dr. Malhotra has admitted to the error. My legal team is preparing criminal and civil cases against him and his clinic. He will lose his medical license at minimum." "Thank you for believing me," Amara said softly. There was a pause on the other end of the line. "I need to see you again. We need to discuss what happens next. Can you come to my office tomorrow morning?" Amara agreed, though dread pooled in her stomach. She knew what he would propose. Money, secrecy, disappearance. The billionaire's solution to an inconvenient problem. When two worlds collide. The second meeting was different from the first. Ryan's office was empty of assistants and lawyers. It was just the two of them, and for the first time, Amara saw something other than cold calculation in his eyes. Exhaustion, perhaps. or the weight of responsibility he had not anticipated. He gestured to a chair across from his desk. "Please, sit." Amara sat, her hands folded in her lap, waiting for the proposal she knew was coming. Ryan took a breath. "I have spent the last 3 days thinking about this situation from every angle. I have consulted with my lawyers, my board of directors, and my family advisors. Everyone agrees on the logical course of action. I should offer you a substantial financial settlement in exchange for your agreement to terminate the pregnancy or, if you refuse termination, to carry the child and surrender all parental rights after birth. You would sign comprehensive non-disclosure agreements and relocate somewhere far from here. The matter would be resolved quietly." Amara felt her heart sink, though she had expected exactly this. "And is that what you are offering me?" Ryan stood and walked to the window, his back to her. "That is what everyone tells me I should offer. But I find myself unable to do it." Amara looked up, surprised. "What do you mean?" He turned to face her, and she saw something vulnerable in his expression that had not been there before. "I am 36 years old. I have built a company worth billions. I have everything money can buy. But I have no family. No one who shares my blood. I pursued that fertility arrangement because I wanted an heir, someone to carry on what I have built. And now, through the most bizarre and terrible circumstances imaginable, that child exists. Inside you. So you want the baby," Amara said quietly. "I do. But not like this. Not by taking it from you against your will. Not by treating you like an incubator to be paid off and forgotten." He returned to his desk and sat down, meeting her eyes directly. "I have been thinking about you, Amara. About how you could have come to me with lawyers, demanding millions, threatening public scandal. But you did not. You came alone, with nothing but the truth. You refused Dr. Malhotra's money. You told me you want justice, not wealth." "I meant it," Amara said. "I do not want to be bought. I know. And that is why I am going to make you a different proposal." Ryan pulled out a document and slid it across the desk. "This is not a contract. It is a proposal for co-parenting. I will cover all your expenses during the pregnancy and provide for your future financial security. But I will not ask you to give up your child. Instead, I want us to raise this baby together. Not as a transaction, but as partners who share responsibility for a life we never intended to create." Amara stared at the document, hardly believing what she was hearing. "You want to co-parent with a stranger? You do not even know me." "Then we should get to know each other," Ryan said simply. "For the sake of the child." The family storm. Telling her family was the hardest thing Amara had ever done. She sat in her parents' living room, the same room where she had celebrated birthdays and holidays, where she had studied for exams and dreamed about her future. Her mother sat on the sofa, her father in his favorite chair, both looking at her with love and trust that was about to be shattered. "I am pregnant," Amara said, her voice barely above a whisper. The silence that followed was deafening. Her mother's face went pale. Her father stood abruptly, his expression a mix of shock and betrayal. "How could you?" her mother whispered. "After everything we taught you, everything we believed in. Who is the boy? When did this happen?" "There is no boy," Amara said, tears streaming down her face. "I went to Dr. Malhotra for my headaches. There was a medical mistake. I was given a fertility treatment meant for someone else. I swear to you, I have never been with anyone. I am still a virgin. But I am pregnant because of a terrible error." Her father's face turned red with rage. "Do you expect us to believe such a story? You think we are fools? You have shamed this family, destroyed our honor, and now you lie to us with impossible tales." "It is not a lie," Amara sobbed. "I have medical reports, legal documents, everything. Dr. Malhotra has admitted his mistake. The man whose genetic material was used, his name is Ryan Shaw, he is investigating and prosecuting the doctor. Please, you have to believe me. But her parents' faces remained hard. In their world, pregnancy outside marriage meant only one thing, and no medical explanation could overcome centuries of cultural conditioning. Her mother asked her to leave. Her father said she was no longer welcome in their home until she told them the truth. Amara left her childhood home that night with a single suitcase, her heart shattered into 1,000 pieces. She had lost her family, her reputation, and her innocence, all because she had trusted a doctor. An unexpected alliance. Ryan found her 2 days later, staying in a modest hotel on the outskirts of the city. Jennifer had been tracking her credit card usage to ensure she was safe. When he knocked on her door, Amara opened it with red-rimmed eyes and a face that showed the depth of her suffering. "You told your family," he said. "It was not a question. They did not believe me. They think I am lying to cover up some shameful affair. They have disowned me." Amara's voice was hollow, emptied of emotion by grief. Ryan stepped into the small room, looking out of place among the cheap furniture and faded wallpaper. "I am sorry. I know what it is like to be rejected by the people who are supposed to love you unconditionally. My own father cut me off when I refused to follow his chosen path for my life. It took me years to build what I have now." "At least you had a choice in your situation," Amara said bitterly. "I did nothing wrong, and I have lost everything." "You have not lost everything," Ryan said quietly. "You have that baby. And you have me, for whatever that is worth." Over the following weeks, something unexpected happened. Ryan began spending time with Amara, not out of obligation but out of genuine interest. He took her to prenatal appointments, sitting beside her as the doctor explained the stages of pregnancy. He asked questions, took notes, and treated each visit with the same focus he brought to his business meetings. They had dinner together once a week, conversations that started awkwardly but gradually became easier. Amara learned that beneath the billionaire's cold exterior was a man who had been lonely for most of his adult life. He had never learned how to connect with people outside of business transactions. Romance seemed like a weakness, emotions like liabilities to be managed. But the baby growing inside Amara changed something in him. She saw it in the way his face softened when he felt the first kicks, in the way he researched parenting books with the same intensity he applied to market analysis. He was preparing to be a father with everything he had. And Amara found herself seeing past her own pain to recognize his. They were both victims of Dr. Malhotra's negligence. They were both facing an impossible situation neither had chosen. But slowly, they were choosing each other. Justice and new beginnings. Dr. Malhotra's trial became a media sensation. The story of the virgin girl made pregnant through medical negligence captured public attention, though Amara's identity was protected by court order. The doctor was convicted of criminal negligence and medical malpractice. He lost his license, his clinic, and faced substantial jail time. The verdict brought Amara a measure of closure, though it could not undo the damage to her life. On a cold winter evening, 7 months into her pregnancy, Amara went into early labor. Ryan was in a board meeting when he received the call. He left immediately, his assistant scrambling to reschedule everything. He arrived at the hospital to find Amara frightened and alone, gripping the bed rails as contractions racked her body. "I am here," he said, taking her hand. "I am not going anywhere." The labor was long and difficult. Amara had never felt pain like this, had never known her body capable of such intensity. But Ryan stayed beside her through every moment, his hand in hers, his voice steady and reassuring. When the final push came and the baby emerged, crying and perfect, both of them wept. The nurse placed the tiny girl in Amara's arms. She had Ryan's dark hair and Amara's delicate features, a perfect blend of two people who had never chosen each other but who had created something beautiful nonetheless. "She is perfect," Amara whispered. Ryan touched the baby's tiny hand, his expression full of wonder. She is a miracle. Our miracle. In that moment, something shifted between them. It was not love, not yet. But it was the foundation of something that could become love. Trust, respect, shared wonder at the life they had created together. The future they built. 6 months after their daughter Zara was born, Ryan made a decision that shocked his entire social circle. He asked Amara to move into his penthouse, not as a hired caregiver but as his equal partner in raising their child. He set up a separate suite for her, gave her complete freedom, and asked for nothing except that they try to build a family together. Amara's parents eventually reached out, their anger softened by the arrival of their granddaughter. The legal documentation and media coverage of the trial had finally convinced them their daughter had been telling the truth. The reconciliation was slow and painful, but it happened. Forgiveness took time, but love made it possible. Amara finished her degree, attending classes online while caring for Zara. Ryan adjusted his work schedule to be home for dinner every night. They learned to navigate parenthood together, fumbling through diaper changes and sleepless nights with equal inexperience and determination. One evening, as they sat together watching Zara play with her toys, Ryan turned to Amara. "I know this is not the life you imagined for yourself. You should have had the chance to fall in love, to choose your own path. Instead, you got me and this complicated situation." Amara looked at him, this man who had started as a stranger and become her partner, her friend, and perhaps something more. "I did not choose this path. But I choose what we are building together. I choose this family." Ryan took her hand, and for the first time, Amara felt the flutter of something that might become love. Not the passionate romance of fairy tales, but something deeper and more real. A love built on shared struggle, mutual respect, and the fierce devotion they both felt for the little girl who had brought them together. She trusted a doctor, Amara thought, looking at her daughter. And though that trust was broken, the impossible consequence had given her what she never knew she needed. A fierce protector, an unexpected partner, and a family built on truth, forgiveness, and the courage to love in the face of impossible odds. Their story was not the one Amara had written in her dreams. But it was real, and it was hers, and that made it beautiful. The end.